Along with some of the bigger features that have arrived with Photoshop CS6, there are dozens of smaller additions which you may find quite welcoming. In previous versions of Photoshop, creating an outline, or as it's called in Photoshop, a stroke, around an object was pretty limiting. It was typically done by adding a stroke layer style. This would allow you to create a solid colored outline, a gradiented outline, or a pattern-filled outline. And other than changing the thickness, there really wasn't much else you can do. If you were working on a project that required a dotted or dashed line, boy, were you in for a chore. This would usually require creating a custom brush and a lot of customization. And the worst part is that it wasn't vector. If you decided to enlarge your design, you would either have to recreate the outline or be stuck with a blurry result. Photoshop CS6 changes all that. With your shape tool active, let's take a look at the options bar. Right beside the fill color, we have access to a new stroke option. A white box with a line through it tells us there's currently no stroke on our shape. Clicking on this box, just like a layer style, we can choose from a solid, gradient, or pattern strokes, and of course our color of choice. And to the right, we can set the thickness. So how is this any different than adding a layer style? So far it's really not, until you click on the next drop-down. This section allows us to choose from a solid, dashed, or dotted line. Down below there are a few more options, but to better understand what they do, let's hop into the More Options window. A line tells Photoshop where to position the stroke. Your options are inside the shape, on the center of the path, or on the outside. Pretty self-explanatory. Caps defines how you want the ends of your dashes to appear. The butt option will cut off the dash once it hits the length that's defined by the dash field below. Round, if you can't guess, creates a rounded end to your dashes, and square will add a square cap to the end of your dash. This will increase the length of each dash by a few pixels. Finally, we have corners. The different corners will usually only have an effect on your dashes if they're positioned on the outside of a shape with sharp corners, such as a rectangle. The miter option is your typical sharp edge corner. Round will give you rounded corners, and bevel will add a slight edge to the corners of your dashes. Below these options, we have a few text fields. The dash field defines the length of each individual dash. If I were to increase this number, each dash would get longer. The gap value tells Photoshop how much space to put in between each dash or dot. A higher value will add more space in between each dash, but may also reduce the amount of dashes that are present. Now you may be wondering, why are there additional fields to the right? This allows us to add additional dots or dashes of different sizes if you wish. Entering a smaller value for the second dash and gap will place additional smaller dashes beside the initial longer ones. Once you're satisfied with your outline, you can save it as a preset for future use. Now, if you need to scale your shape larger or smaller, the outline scales with it, with absolutely no loss in quality. And that's an overview of the new stroke options within the shape tools in Photoshop CS6. If you want to check out what else is new in Photoshop CS6, head over to iceflowstudios.com. Take care.